Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on Labyrinth by Kate Mosse. Labyrinth is about Alice Tanner and Alice Pelletier, two women who are born centuries apart, but they are linked in their destiny to discover the whereabouts of the Holy Grail, and to protect it from those who would abuse its power. To begin with, this is actually my second time reading the book. I previously read it quite a few years ago, back when it was first released, which was 2005 if I'm not mistaken. So it's been quite a while since I read it. And to let you guys in on a secret, the UK aired a mini-series of this back in 2012. And, you know, I don't live in the UK, so I kind of downloaded it. Shh. But anyway, I decided to reread the book again because the CW here in America is going to be airing the miniseries on Thursday and Friday, May, I believe it's 23rd and 24th, unless it's 22nd and 23rd, I'm not quite sure, somewhere around there, but it's a Thursday and a Friday. But back on track with the book itself, the first time I read this book, I wasn't overly impressed, if I'm honest. So, having seen the miniseries, I decided to read it again to see if maybe my opinions of the book changed, especially now kind of having visuals in my head. I've said in videos before that I'm a very visual reader and I like to cast and I like to see locations and objects. But on a second reread, sadly, my feelings about the first time I read it are pretty much the same. So I'm just going to get right into the things that I have issues with this book. First off is the plot itself. The plot kind of comes across as very jumbled and messy on occasion, and there's this sense that a lot is going on, but once you kind of conclude the book, not much really actually even happened. And I feel like we're never really given any sort of justification for why the plot is even occurring. Maybe I am just spoiled with the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. If you've read the Da Vinci Code is also about the Holy Grail. And that is what Labyrinth is about. It's about the search for the Holy Grail. Yes, in Labyrinth the Holy Grail is something totally different, and in Da Vinci Code it's totally something different, but still it's this same common quest. But with the Da Vinci Code, I really feel like Dan Brown had a really good hold on his plot and his characters and his research, and he really knew how to navigate the story, and I never felt lost or confused or overwhelmed with detail. And that's kind of how I felt with Kate Mosse, that she got so wrapped up in this historical context, and because of that, I think the plot sort of suffered. So yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is that the plot overall didn't really make much sense to me. I mean, I understood it in some ways, I guess, but at the same time, it's just, I couldn't quite wrap my head around some of the details. And it's such a shame that I had issues with the plot, because the premise is fantastic. I mean, it's about searching for the Holy Grail. It's a fantastic premise, but I think the whole execution of the plot is just kind of done sloppily. My second point of complaint is the characters. Geez, these characters were so dull and boring, and I hate to say that, but they were. I mean, I read the book and I liked Alice and Alice. They were fine characters, but the thing is, I only liked them just because they were the protagonists and I'm supposed to be rooting for them against the villains. The characters just often come across as very flat and uninteresting, and there's attempts given to give them backstories, but the backstories kind of really go nowhere, and they don't really influence the characters currently as they are, really. Plus, from the summary, you know that there's Alice Tanner, who is part of the modern era, and then there's Alice Pelletier, who is part of the 1100s. What century is that? The 12th century, right? So yeah, they're born centuries apart, but their stories intersect very interestingly, and you would think that would provide for some great moments, but still, I don't know, the characters are still just so boring, and Alice and Alice kind of just come across as one and the same person, and there's not much different characteristics there between them individually. Even the villains, Marie-Cécile and Oriane, I just didn't understand their motivations for the things they were doing. They themselves were just boring also. I hate when villains are kind of just villains for the sake of being villains. At least with Oriane, they kind of give an excuse that she is evil because she's simply jealous of Alaïs and Alaïs's relationship with their father. But Marie-Cécile, I honestly can't even tell you why she's evil. She just kind of wants the Grail for her own malicious purposes, but at the same time I still don't understand why it is that I'm rooting against her. And don't get me started on the whole Alice and Will relationship. Let's just call it insta-love. Alice and Will, they don't even meet until way after the halfway point of the book, and then they seriously only share like a chapter together, okay, a chapter until they're reunited at the very last chapter, and they just make these googly eyes at each other as soon as they meet, and they're instantly in love, and it's like, you just met. And I don't understand what Kate Mosse was kind of going for right there. Sort of these subtle hints of some sort of reincarnation, but even then that didn't make sense. About the only interesting character was Aldrich Ballard. He is this elderly man. He's very mysterious, and he knows things about the past that is very interesting. And you're always wondering, well, how does he fit into the whole of the novel? What is his connection to Alaïs? So sadly, the mysterious character, who you're not given much detail about, is actually the most interesting. And my third level of complaint has to deal with so much description. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy description when it's done well. This novel went overboard with the description. So much description, more so than plot development and character development. I will give Kate Mosse credit though. Kate Mosse's writing is absolutely beautiful and gorgeous and stunning and very visual, and I could really see myself in the places she was describing. Plus, her historical research is spot on. I mean, I can tell she did her research and she wanted to share her research and her knowledge, but that's kind of just it. It seemed like she was trying to throw all of her knowledge into the book and all of her research, and it was so overwhelming and unneeded. And this novel is a little over 500 pages, and the majority of that is description, whether that be visual description or historical description, and I think a lot of it could have been cut out. So overall, this is my second read of the novel, and my opinions are pretty much the exact same as they were the first time I read the novel years ago. I won't say that I loathe this book. From this review, you're probably thinking, man, she hates this book. I don't actually really hate the book. There's quite a bit about it that I do actually like and enjoy, and it is, in some spots, entertaining. But it's all this other stuff with the overabundance of description and the dull characters and the weird plot that doesn't make sense, that just all combine and kind of makes the book less enjoyable. I also don't know if my reason for not enjoying the book might also have to do with the fact that I'm not familiar with this time in history. I only have some vague minor details in my head. It takes place in the early 1200s, and I just don't know a lot about that. I'm not even quite sure who's king of England at that point in history. I think it's Henry II, if I'm not sure. But yeah, the book mostly takes place in France, and I'm no good with French history, or kind of that religion of the time period, which is between the Christians and the Cathars. I almost feel if I was more familiar with that time in history, I would maybe appreciate the book a bit better. Who knows? I would recommend this book for readers who perhaps do read a lot more adult fiction, much more mature reads, someone who doesn't mind a slower paced book, someone who also doesn't mind a longer book. But yeah, if you're someone who's been interested in reading this book, but you tend to mostly read YA or just shorter books in general, you may not like this book and you'll probably put it down after the first 50 pages or so. But depending on the type of reader you are, you'll either love or hate this book. So that's it for my review of Labyrinth. Have you guys read this, or are you interested in reading it? Don't forget that the CW will be airing the miniseries late May. I'm going to be doing a book to screen for it, so stay tuned. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you liked this book review, you may like these. Bye guys.